Welcome to the latest episode of First Word in Sport. I'm one of your co-hosts, Luke Payton. This is James Roberts with me. James, how was your weekend?
All good, thank you. Watched a bit of sport. Had time as a family yesterday, so I can't complain really. Yourself?
Very good. If we can just mark in the diaries 6th of December, the date that Emery ruined another Arsenal title bid, that would be good. All jokes aside, obviously that was the big game of the weekend. Villa beating Arsenal 2-1 with Buendia's last gasp winner. Any thoughts on the match?
Pretty even. It was quite exciting the first half. For a 12:30 kickoff, both teams decided to attack. Didn't like Eze playing wide left for Arsenal. I don't like that position for him at all. He's more of a midfielder, not a wide left player. I was surprised that Trossard didn't start, but maybe because they wanted Odegaard back in as club captain. We have discussed this before. They have a decision to make between Eze and Odegaard. You can't play both on the same side. Decision time for Arteta. So Villa were impressive, really impressive. Kept on going. I think the team that Villa picked, I think we kind of predicted that on Friday, was Tielemans in that 10 sitting on Zubimendi. Onana and Kamara in midfield, Rodgers off to the left and McGinn off to the right. Compact. They played well, full of confidence. Yeah, last kick of the game winner. Kind of not fully deserved it, but didn't deserve to lose. Got the winner. Fair play. That's 7 out of 7 flying. Third in the league. Title charge.
So I think Trossard he had a knock from midweek, which is why he didn't start. But I think the point remains that you're right in that Eze has been playing more centrally when Odegaard's not been there. Odegaard comes back in, forces Eze out wide left, and he doesn't look nearly as effective there for them. I do think Arsenal have a couple of interesting situations with Eze and Gyökeres in terms of they were both bought almost as finishing pieces to this squad and spent a lot of money on players who aren't young. And, you know, Eze, aside from the hat-trick against Tottenham, I don't think has really set the world on fire yet for Arsenal. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out sort of going forward. I think the game, brilliant. I wasn't hugely surprised that Villa did well. Villa's home record is unbelievable. And you can see the confidence that they have at the moment. You know, to be trailing away at Leeds, Tottenham, Brighton recently, 3 tricky away games, and to win all of them, it just gives you so much confidence. And it's such stark contrast to where they were earlier on in the season. It's exciting times, I think.
Confidence plays a huge part in football, or any sport, or any walk of life, to be honest with you, anyway. But you can see it with Villa and how suddenly a flick, a switch, whatever it is, has happened in the last couple of months. Yeah, it's time to prioritise the Premier League and bin off the Europa League for Villa. They need to start making some changes in that starting this Thursday night. But yeah, I looked at the first goal from the Polish Cafu, as you lot call him, Matty Cash. And I wonder if they target Eze on that left-hand side, that he doesn't track back there. And it wasn't the first time they got him behind and he switched off, didn't realise Cash was there. And it's a great finish from Matty Cash. I do like the celebration. He's very good at golf, by the way. You ever get to watch him on other channels. And then Arteta changed it, didn't he? He brought on Trossard to replace Eze, and Arsenal looked a lot better, I thought. And then get back into the game. It's not a disastrous result for Arsenal. Everyone's going, it's disastrous. They've let Man City back in the title charge. But it's 15 games into the season. The title race doesn't start till game week 30, 31.
But I do think Arsenal are the best team in the league by quite some margin. I agree with you. I do think that there is a massive overreaction to what is one result. It's a tricky game for any team. Villa beat Man City, just a few weeks ago in the same fixture. It's a tricky game for anyone. I'm intrigued to see how Arsenal actually bounce back from this, because I've touched on it before and it's worth reiterating. I do wonder about Arteta and his mind games and moaning about being tired and all the negative connotations to that, I think, are there. Is it a surprise Arsenal then go and lose? Not necessarily. I think that Chelsea game, they may look back on and wish they'd been more aggressive. That game was
that's not in Arteta's nature, though. That's not.
No,
he's
but
very defensive orientated. Look at the game. Even without the three main centre backs, they still put out four centre backs onto the pitch again. Ben White looks a complete shadow of himself. £50 million they spent on him from Brighton. 50. Just he's up there with Max Tillman as one of the worst traddies for money ever by a centre back going. Both British tax, obviously, but yeah. They've got a few easy games coming up, Arsenal. So, but Gyökeres, Mourinho's better than Gyökeres, and they spent £60 million on a 27-year-old cart horse. Who knew?
Oh, one thing I did want to say was I do think so. You tend to look at different teams and think, oh, what's the strength of that team? And Villa have outperformed their sort of budget, shall we say, in the last 3 or 4 years under Emery. I do think the key to it is the central midfield. And in that Kamara, Onana, Tielemans, McGinn, Rodgers, Buendia, even Bogard, I don't think there's many better central midfields in the Premier League in terms of balance and depth. Yes, there's individual players that you'd rather have ahead of them, so like your Caciedos or your Rices, but as a collective unit in terms of the variety that they actually have in there, honestly, I think it's quite impressive what Villa have there.
Yeah, how did Steven Gerrard get Kamara on a free?
He went to visit him. He went to his house, apparently.
Madness. Could have had anyone in Europe to go to any club in Europe, and he chose Villa because Steven Gerrard. The poor Steven Gerrard. Okay,
that's enough talking about that game, I think. Let's talk about your favourite subject. Obviously, Liverpool drew 3-3 with Leeds. Bit of a crazy game. Obviously, you took a 2-0 lead, pulled back to 2-2, 3-2 up. Tanaka obviously equalised right at the end. Let's talk about the game first and Slot before touching on all the stuff about Salah.
First half was terrible. If you look at it, Liverpool can't attack, can't defend. The XGs were roughly the same anyway. Pretty even game. Then Leeds make a huge error. Rondon passes straight through to Ekitike, who takes the goal really well, to be fair to him. It's a really good finish from doesn't panic. We've seen that from Ekitike against Frankfurt early in the season when he's clean through. He doesn't panic, buries it. A minute later, Bradley crosses the ball and he gets extremely lucky, to be fair, or unfair, depending on what side of the fence you sit on. If the keeper lets that go, it's out for a throw-in and it's 1-0, but it doesn't. Rebounds off Ekitike 2-0. At that point, it should be game over. Not under this current malaise of Slot's Liverpool. Konate is just an accident waiting to happen. He's done it all season. He might look brilliant for 89 minutes a game and then one massive, massive error. And he does it again, jumps to the floor, brings down. It's a clear penalty. Calvert-Lewin sticks it away. On that, though, Alisson is one of the best keepers ever seen in the Premier League. Can't save a penalty for his life. It's remarkable how bad he is. The commentators were saying no keeper's going to save that. It's halfway in between the centre of the goal and the post. Yeah, it struck well, but anyway, Calvert-Lewin 2-1. And then a couple of minutes later, Gravenberch, as the defensive midfielder, turns it back, doesn't do anything to help the back line. Canate and Van Dijk obviously do the same thing. 2-2. And then Liverpool go up the other end and Szoboszlai scores.
It was a really good goal. That was a really good goal.
Really good finish, 3-2. Then Slot decides to bring on Endo, etc., to try and protect the game. Doesn't work. Corner, 96th minute. Gravenberch turns it back. It would have been a penalty anyway if the guy didn't smack it in for 3-3. 3-3. And it's typical Liverpool Football Club under Slot. Can't defend, can't attack. Collect your P45. Leeds, that's really good. 3 performances in a row against 3 top quality sides. Well, 2 top quality sides and Liverpool. But they've been looking at when the fixtures came out in June and going, let's not get thumped in all 3 there. And they've taken 4 points. He's probably saved Farke's job. He's probably got some extra time there. He's changed his formation from 4-2-3-1 into a 3-5-2, 5-3-2. And it's made a huge difference. The players look more comfortable in that. They look more solid, even though they conceded 3, but they gave 2 goals to Liverpool anyway. Yeah, Liverpool are a mess.
I think the Leeds, just quickly touching on the Leeds thing, I think the fact that they actually have 2 players up front now in terms of Calvert-Lewin and Namacha or Okafor, whoever it is, rather than playing with the wide players, actually having 2 players up front just gives them a bit more from an attacking perspective. And also, as you say, the extra body in midfield, centrally and defensively, it has definitely made them just a little bit more solid. It's no coincidence there's been a big upturn in their performances this week. In terms of Liverpool, I mean, you touched on Canate there. He has been absolutely horrendous this season. So obviously, I mean, do you want to talk about Salah? Do you want to talk about Salah now, or do you want to talk about Salah a little bit later?
I'd rather talk about Slot, to be honest.
Okay, let's talk about Slot now.
Liverpool have won 2 games, and funny enough, one was against Villa over in late October, Halloween weekend. They've won 2 out of the last 10 Premier League games. They've won 26 out of the last 52 this calendar year. It's a shambles. Absolute shambles. He has no idea what to do. He can't attack, which isn't in the media. Let's forget about the defence for a minute, which we know is a shambles. And they're soft as absolute kids might be watching. But anyway, they can't attack. They have no structure going forward whatsoever. And dropping Salah, they didn't drop him for his performances. They've dropped him for him questioning Slot after the PSV in my view. And they've tried to make it more solid by playing Szoboszlai wide right. Well, all the 3 Leeds goals came from the right on the weekend. They are a mess. But the problem is, obviously, Salah came out, and we have to talk about it, came out afterwards to a Norwegian journalist who was just there anyway. So he wasn't a scoop. He was just, Salah wanted a rant. Even before that, he was waving to Liverpool fans that came through anyway on the pitch after full time, proper wave goodbye. He knew what he was going to say. I'd expect senior players knew that he was going to say something anyway. He has history of talking in the media after games when he doesn't get his way. Obviously, his ego is huge. I didn't like how he did it straight after game. However, I get his viewpoint. There's clearly things going on behind the scenes we're not privy to. But it seems like they gave him a contract in the summer because they didn't want to lose him and Trent to go on a free, and it would have been a circus around the club going, you just won the Premier League and you've lost 2 of your best players. Gave him a massive contract and then told him to play in a position that can't play, wide right, because he bought Isak, Ekitike and Wirtz. How are you expecting a 33-year-old to play as a wide right player? No idea. And then you've been gaslighting him to Saudi Arabia for the last couple of months behind his back, saying, yeah, he's available for a sale. Here you go. We'll accept whatever it is, 50, 60 million pounds in January, because we want to go and buy a Semenyo, for example. And then you drop him to save your job. And he plays the boss side, right? And then Salah's asked him, why have you dropped me? And he's given no explanation. But then Salah's looking at him going, well, he's playing Gakpo, who's been downright disgraceful as well. He's playing Gravenberch, who's been downright disgraceful as well. He's playing Canate, as we talked about, downright disgraceful. Virgil van Dijk, given up, doesn't rate manager. Alexis McAllister, he finally dropped at the weekend and Liverpool looked a little bit better with Curtis Jones in there. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have done it, Mo. I can understand why he's done it. He doesn't have a future at the club, and neither should Slot.
From an outsider's perspective, I do find that it did, and I said to you this even last week, so it wasn't just after this weekend, but it feels like Mo has definitely been made a bit of a scapegoat by Slot in terms of trying to put the blame elsewhere. And I can understand why Mo hasn't particularly appreciated that particular sort of narrative that's been spun. What I would say, I mean, he hasn't been great this year, but as you say, he may not have had the opportunity to be great. I think what it probably highlights more than anything, from my point of view, is just how important Trent was to you as a player. And I know there's obviously a lot of animosity from Liverpool fans towards him. But it has had so many knock-on consequences to this Liverpool team, whether it be Salah and his positioning in terms of to get the best out of him, whether it be the central defenders in terms of being able to play out of the back, whether it be, Szoboszlai having to play at right back at times and everything else that's gone with it. It seems just that him leaving has had just a ridiculous number of consequences that Slot simply hasn't been able to deal with.
Yeah, sure. And look at Mo, right? Liverpool played 5 right backs this season. Bradley, Gomez, Frimpong, Szoboszlai. They played anyone else there? Curtis Jones. There's 5 right backs. We're 25 games into the season. It's absolutely ridiculous that Slot hasn't worked. I know there have been injuries, but he had no idea who his best right back is. And we're 9 months on since Trent told him in March that he's leaving. Just some stats on Mo. This is actually from Twitter, someone sent me yesterday. Most chances created for Liverpool this season, 28. Second most big chances created, 5. Most passes into the penalty area, 40. Most touches in the penalty area, 105. Second most successful take-ons, 19. Second most goals scored, 5. He isn't the problem. The system is the problem, and the system comes from the coach. If you're asking Mo Salah to play wide right, then you have serious questions marks about the coach. The coach has got Florian Wirtz, a generational talent from Germany, for £100 million, 115 if they win, etc. So it's never going to be £115 million. Alexander Isak for 120, and they've got 1 goal and 1 lucky assist for them. And we sit here on Monday, the 8th of December, and Mo Salah's the problem? He ain't the problem, lads. The problem is the coach.
It's certainly going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm surprised that, it looks like Salah's off or will be off, with Slot's job in danger as well. It always seems a bit strange that, potentially you would lose both, whether an incoming coach would want Salah. I don't know why they wouldn't want Salah. So it feels like they're almost backing Slot here, which I know you'll be thrilled by. I think it's, any other club up around, contesting for those top 4 places, I think we'll be delighted to see Slot stay there, to be honest.
Absolutely. And he'd been sacked anywhere. He'd been sacked anywhere else. There's no excuse why he's not been sacked yet. I've yet to see anyone write anywhere a coherent argument of why Slot hasn't been sacked. There isn't one out there, and it's
he won the title last year, James.
Okay. Okay. Time waits for no one. No, it's just sometimes in life you've got to move on, and I said it I think I text you. Actually, on the 4th of October, there's something wrong. That's over 2 months ago now.
I know, because you went back and checked.
I can prove it if you want to on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Let's talk about Man City and Chelsea. Obviously, Man City got the win against Sunderland. Obviously, the first goal was really important with Diaz. Obviously, long range, ended up being deflected into the top corner. Very comfortable for City after that. Big week for them. They've not played great against relatively average teams. I think the most interesting part for me about it was just how strong a team Pep picked once again.
That's his first 11, though. Now, that is his first 11.
I know, but I was expecting them to make probably 4 or 5 changes, particularly, in terms of likes of Aït-Nouri and Savinho's, and, if you're going to give Bob a game, these are the sorts of games that, you have to see what you have in your squad, because they don't have, they're away at Real Madrid in midweek. I was surprised. I thought they were going to rest a few players for that game, and they didn't. And you just wonder if it's going to come back and bite them a little bit later in the season in terms of injuries and fatigue.
Yeah, it's a big win for them. 2 points from that. The assist by Cherky is brilliant. And a piece of skill by David Silva. Not David Silva. That's a long time ago.
Bernardo Silva,
the absolute brilliant footballer from Portugal, but a complete and utter bleep individual. It's a brilliant piece of skill. Yeah, it's a big win for them. 2 points behind Arsenal now. Yeah, I was surprised about the team, but maybe Pep goes back to what he wants. That's his first 11 at the moment. They've obviously got Madrid on Wednesday, probably the same 11. Might change it. Well, they'll definitely change it for the Carabao Cup game in a couple of weeks. But yeah, and Nouri's now obviously second choice behind it. Yeah, they're not playing well, but they won, most important thing.
Chelsea, obviously, bad result, 0-0 away at Bournemouth. Didn't play well again without Caciedo.
Most important player for them by a long, long, long way.
Well, I think we've touched on it. We touched on Friday in terms of him trying to shoehorn all his different stars into a starting lineup. And I think it's going to be a recurring theme all year long that he struggles to get that balance right with, Palmer, Fernandes, Pedro. It's a Dilap, it's a Neto. It's a difficult conundrum to, get the balance of that team right.
2 things on Chelsea. Liam Delap is an absolute thug. All he does is go around trying to kick people. It's absolute nonsense. And then, unfortunately, obviously dislocated his shoulder. But start playing some football, lad. Like, why are you trying to get into arguments and physical battles and things like that? Nonsense. And Maresca, yeah, he's got some big decisions where they play Caciedo when back, where he plays Palmer, where he plays Fernandes. Fernandes is not suited to midfield double pivot in the Premier League. He's much better coming as a 10. And good luck asking Palmer to play wide right. I was having a discussion actually with my brother yesterday about this, about managers at the top level. And I heard someone saying, and I think it's quite true, a lot of it's about managing egos. Tactically, yes, you need to be good. I understand that. But a lot of it's managing these egos of these players. And you've seen it with Slot and Salah. You kind of can see it with Maresca and now Caciedo's a big player, Palmer's a big player, won't want to play wide right. Fernandes probably wants to play as a 10, get more goals. You go back to Enrique at PSG. Is he good tactically? Could argue he's old, probably not. But he's great at managing massive egos at that club. The bigger one is Zidane. 3 Champions Leagues in a row, which is unheard of, unprecedented. Great at managing egos. They probably want him back at Madrid because he can manage Mbappe, Vinicius, etc., etc. It's interesting discussion to have how big an ego, if you need to manage egos, managers need to learn how to manage them.
But it feels like so much of that comes from the respect they have for the manager. So if you take someone like Zidane, so much of that is because they respect him as one of the greatest ever footballers.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you look at someone like Villa, like Emery has incredible respect from the Villa players, but twofold. One, because of his track record, and 2, because they know the effort and his, how committed he is to doing a great job. He'll leave no stone unturned. And, from a player, I think players are willing to leave their egos at the door a little bit if they respect what the manager's trying to achieve and what they have achieved previously. So one of the problems someone like Slot has a little bit is that, yes, Liverpool won the league last year, but he, beyond that, the record isn't such that, you feel like you have to listen, respect what he's doing.
Especially when you're in a bad spell and you can see it's not working. But yeah, it's just an interesting sort to bring up anyway.
A couple of interesting games yesterday in terms of sort of relegation, and I think West Ham will, that late equaliser for Brighton could end up being costly for West Ham. Although West Ham looked a lot more solid than they have done recently, Brighton were not good. I don't think they had a shot on target until certainly after the 80th minute yesterday. So I think Nuno's certainly doing something right at West Ham, although that was 2 points they let slip there. Obviously, a very good week for Leeds. It really brings me on to Nottingham Forest. Obviously, they had a little bump when Dyche went in there after Ange. They have not been good recently.
They were good at Anfield, but then everyone is.
But they lost 3-0 to Everton at the weekend.
Thumped.
They were pretty fortunate, I think, to beat Forest in midweek. To beat Wolves in midweek 1-0.
Yeah.
Arias missed an unbelievably good chance at 0-0 in that game. And then Johnston, bit of a howler for the Forest goal. They lost away at Brighton. Suddenly, when you throw in all the Europa League games, I think they're away at Utrecht this week. More fixtures. Obviously, they have a couple of injury issues with Murillo at the moment. Dyche ball. Interesting. I'd be a little bit concerned. Forest have so much talent in that squad, but their performances have not been good in this last couple of weeks.
No, it's been rubbish. They're not going down because Burnley and Wolves are down. And I don't know who else, but Leeds and West Ham. But yeah, they haven't been good at all. It was a strange appointment. It was almost like they appointed him because of his past history at the club kind of thing, which I never normally like. I never like managers who come into clubs and bring a former player in to get the fans on side. Absolutely ridiculous. Bring the people in there who you trust, who you think are good, not just because they're former players or former legends of a club. It was a strange appointment going from Nuno to Ange and then back to Dyche. They'll be all right. They've got some really good players in there, but yeah, he needs to find a way of getting the best out of those players, definitely.
Obviously, we touched on Frank and Andrews. So, obviously, it was a very comfortable win for Tottenham in the end. Frank showed Andrews pretty comfortably who's the boss. One other thing I want to touch on is, we have touched on this, is commentators in football.
They do my head in. They really do.
Honestly, Martin Keown, obviously he's played for both Villa and Arsenal. I don't know if they're just trying to farm engagements, engagement farming at the moment by having him commentating. He cannot watch a game subjectively when Arsenal play.
It's downright bias. That's all it is. It's just bias. He just can't see it any other way than Arsenal this, Arsenal that, and it's not even close. It's not even. It's different levels to Carragher, Neville, etc., or Danny Murphy, whoever you want to talk about, Wayne Rooney or whoever. But yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Even giving Odegaard man of the match, it was just
what?
Yeah.
How can you watch that game and think Odegaard was man of the match?
I mean, I think this is part of the reason why we wanted to do podcasts in the first place. Was we see these things all the time, and part of the problem is that Keown talking the way he does and the things he talks about has a big impact on the way people view that game and the players involved. So a lot of people will go away from that game thinking, "Oh, Odegaard's back. Odegaard, man of the match performance against Villa." I just really struggle with, some of the commentary and commentators that the normal person is getting served up. It's not even remotely objective, and I just don't think it really helps football when you see that sort of stuff.
No, we've talked about it before. Even look at the media, Liverpool media, the last 24 hours with Slot and Salah. They all talk about they've been told what to write by the club. It's just that simple. It's the only way that you can describe it. They're told what to write, and they influence people's views in the game. It's why I don't listen to football commentators.
So in terms of other football, it was interesting to see Hearts beat Celtic yesterday at Celtic Park. I think Hearts are now 3 points clear.
Yeah.
So Hearts is obviously interesting to me, certainly from a betting perspective, just because Tony Bloom is now one of the owners there. The man's an absolute genius, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that sort of all unfolds.
Talking of Tony Bloom, that was absolute nonsense in the papers and the media last week about him. It was downright ridiculous. It's a non-story joke.
So to put into some context, he has a court case regarding a former employee or someone who used to be part of his syndicate, and there's contesting how much money they're owed. So we actually got to see a few details of Star Lizard, which is the company that Bloom runs. It is a fascinating company. I would say pretty confidently it's the most successful gambling syndicate in the world. As I say, the man has been and is an absolute genius when it comes to data and football betting in particular. I mean, you only have to look at the way Brighton recruit players. That all comes from Tony Bloom and his scouting networks.
Genius.
FA Cup third round draw this evening, I believe. No doubt Villa will get drawn against Manchester United or something.
Yeah, third round 6:45, I think, GMT tonight. Yeah, I live close to Sutton, and they were on BBC Two at the same time as Liverpool on Saturday night, and they will be frustrated they didn't win that game against Shrewsbury. 1-0 up in the 91st minute against 10 men and losing extra time 2-1. But yeah, 6:45. It's not actually on the BBC as well, which is a joke, really. It's on TNT and YouTube channels. But yeah, 6:45 FA Cup. Another bit of football news. Real Madrid lost at home again last night. Xabi Alonso is under massive, massive pressure there. And we talked about with Maresca. They don't like the idea he can't manage egos, can't get the best out of the players. One to look out for. If they lose against Man City on Wednesday night, who knows what will happen on Thursday morning, let alone Wednesday night.
All right, let's touch on some other sport that has happened. We'll come back to the Ashes in a minute. Let's just talk to the other stuff
5-0.
Golf it ended up being a pretty decent weekend in the end. Rasmus Nergaard Peterson ended up winning in Australia. Amazing up and down on 18. Left with a horrible chip shot and great chip shot, and then hold crucial putt. Not a huge surprise either, because he has had some decent finishes. I think he was second in Qatar, and he's only been second on the PGA Tour in Puerto Rico. Elsewhere, we saw Raytan won in Sun City. I mean, essentially, he limped home pretty badly, just about got it done. He had shot.
Wasn't he about 7 or 8 clear on Friday and Saturday, wasn't he?
It wasn't quite that far clear, but he had a big lead after round one, after he shot a 63. And I mean, he really limped home. I mean, 63 round that golf course is some golf. And then Hero World Challenge last night saw a playoff between Hideki and Noren. Noren had holed a pretty long putt in regulation to get into the playoff. Hideki had a pretty customary low final round to get into that playoff. First hole, Hideki stiffed it to about 3 feet away. Tournament over, Hideki wins. Some NFL last night. So the big late game was Houston against the Chiefs. Houston won, I think it was 20-10 in the end. And it means Mahomes and Kansas look pretty unlikely to get into the playoffs now. It's not done and dusted yet, so anything could happen. But with the way they're playing as well, it's looking unlikely. They do have a lot of injuries to their offensive line at the moment, which really does matter. In the end, 3 big interceptions for Mahomes. That Texans defense is legitimately good. Did touch on a couple of weeks ago. Interesting to see, just how good they are. It was a great game between Cincinnati and Buffalo yesterday in the snow. It looked like the Bengals were going to win, and then 2 turnovers or 2 interceptions by Burrow.
Yeah, back to back as well.
Very short period of time, and the Bills scraped through. I don't think it makes me think the Bills are going to do anything in the playoffs of note. They're not good enough defensively. Although with Josh Allen, you never know, but I don't think it really enhanced their Super Bowl chances.
That pass throw from Burrow to T. Higgins was brilliant in the first half. It was just on the point. For a guy who hasn't played one game in best part of 3 months, Burrow's come back. I know you take away the 2 interceptions back to back. But yeah, he's been quite impressive kind of thing coming back from that injury. I wonder where they'd be with him all season if he was back with Jamar Chase and Burrow. Where would the Bengals be? They're not. They're 4-9. They could easily be in the playoffs kind of thing, or in the conversation anyway.
And then obviously the Ravens had a big loss against the Steelers. I mean, Lamar was a little bit better, but you expect him to do big things. Didn't really happen. Another good win for Seattle against Falcons. It was pretty close early on before Seattle ran away with it. The other one of the late games last night was Packers beat the Bears. Packers were always in control of that game. They kept making big plays. Another good game for Jordan Love. And finally, the Rams had a very convincing win yesterday as well. So tonight we obviously have Eagles at Chargers. So it'd be interesting to see how Herbert gets on, as I say, with his broken hand. But another fascinating week of NFL. Absolutely love it. And getting to the business end of the season now. Formula One, James. Talk to me about Formula One. Have you woken up yet? I almost fell asleep yesterday watching it.
I watched the first couple of laps just to see what would happen, just to see if anything dodgy would happen between the front three. Nothing really happened. Verstappen obviously got off the line again. Norris had a good start for a change. And then Piastri overtook him. I think it was late lap 1 or early lap 2. Can't quite remember now. On a different tyre strategy. And they kind of managed Lando Norris, who is the new world champion at the age of 25, 26. Fantastic news to stop Verstappen winning 5 out of 5. Some underhand tactics from Red Bull, but that doesn't surprise you, even with Horner not there, telling Tsunoda to slow down, drive off the circuit, weaving in and out. Pretty borderline on cheating, that was. But Norris overtook him off the track. People were complaining he took him off the track. Well, you forced him off the track and you were weaving down the straight, so get on with it. Yeah, snooze fest, but great to see Verstappen not win by 2 points. Happy days for Lando Norris to win. He is the 11th Formula 1 British World Champion, I believe, and the 35th new winner of the Formula 1 World Championship.
So I did hear something interesting over the weekend, and so someone involved with, I'm not going to say too much, but Drive to Survive, and I didn't realise that how close Verstappen's dad and Verstappen are to Toto Wolff. They are so close that they go on Christmas holidays together and that type of thing. So Wolff was responsible for, like, almost effectively his manager when Verstappen was growing up through the ranks, etc. So I never quite realised just how close.
That's why there's been murmurings this year about Verstappen obviously then going to Mercedes. It'd be interesting next year what happens with new regulations. Is it next year or the year after?
No, this year. This next year coming up.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because Verstappen, obviously, the noises coming out are that the Red Bull aren't anywhere close to being near the front of the grid with practice simulation runs. Verstappen's the type of individual, he'll just go where the best car is. He'll have no loyalty to Red Bull at all.
No, I was just a bit surprised. I didn't realise that he was that close to Toto, and it's also why obviously they didn't like Horner.
Yeah, makes sense now. Yeah.
But anyway, it was always interesting to talk about those things. Was there any? How was the racing in the end? I see John Bond didn't win.
Yeah, he put up a good performance actually. Lando Tom won, cruised up. Good ride from town and coming around the bottom bend there at Sandown, nipped up the inside and powered away up the hill. He's a serious animal.
There was a ton of money for that horse, by the way, on Saturday.
You can see why. It was, it's a good win. Luramba early in the day was a good performance in the novice race over 2 miles. He actually ran quicker than Lando Tom by 5 seconds, I think, but different race, different whatever. You can't really read too much into that. In Ireland, in the graded race, found a 51 beat Marlborough who can't jump. He looks like he just jumps. I don't know. Doesn't jump properly. Not much going on by those two. In snooker last night, I watched the last few frames of that, the UK Championship final, Judd Trump versus Mark Selby. Selby came out on top. First UK Open Championship win since 2016, his third of them. He played really well all week, Mark Selby. After the troubles he's had in the last few years, his mental strength is outrageous. It's brilliant. He is the top 5 now, 3 world titles, 4 world titles. It's impressive. Judd Trump, is he the most overrated snooker player ever? Considering the talent he has and the lack, what he's actually not won. Hasn't won for a year now. He looks unbelievable at times, and he looks absolutely shocking other times.
I think you probably just touched on where the issues lie, is that the mental strength that, it's what separates the truly great players and just the hugely talented. Talent in itself isn't
Only gets you so far, especially at the top level. But yeah,
there's so many good, there's so many other good players, I think. Okay, let's talk about the cricket. So Australia won by 8 wickets. Another thumping win. I don't even know where to start with this, really.
It's going to be 5-0, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so the next test is a week tomorrow in Adelaide. What do you think England do in terms of? I mean, obviously for Australia, I don't know what the situation is in terms of Cummins and Hazelwood. So we're not even seeing the best Australian team.
Cummins is back, Lyons back. So 700 test wickets or 800 test wickets coming back into that team to replace probably Doggett and I'd imagine Nessa, actually. I know he took 5 over the weekend, but so he's suddenly facing Bolland, Stark, Cummins and Lyon. Okay. One thing before we move on, Alex Carey's performance behind the stumps over the weekend was absolutely fantastic. He wasn't standing up to people bowling 72, 73 miles an hour. He was standing up to Michael Nessa and co, bowling 83, 84. The catch get rid of Stokes is outrageous. It's brilliant keeping. Never made this mistake all game. The catch in the first innings, proper performance by him.
I remember seeing him. I think it was given as a wide. There was a bouncer. I can't remember who the bowler was. There was a bouncer, and he took it full stretch above his head, standing up, and it just made you go, "Wow!"
With his wrong hand.
Right, it was just. I think I do have a little bit of sympathy for England on some levels in that Australia have. Bear with me. Australia. I mean, literally, England dropped. I think it dropped 5 catches. Australia
5 relatively comfortable catches at that level.
But so Australia have been almost perfect in terms of, from a fielding perspective. It's what the best teams do. And, as you say, some of Carey's individual brilliance is, these things do make a difference. A catch here and there, that can easily be 50, 60 runs before you know it. And it really changes the game. And Australia have essentially had all those moments in probably the first 2 tests, really, but particularly in that test. Obviously, what did you make of in terms of when we last talked about it? Obviously, Australia had eked out a small lead after day 2. Thoughts on the rest of what you saw?
Sensible test match cricket batting with a pink ball. They knew they wanted to bowl at 6 o'clock local time under lights. They knew the pitch was flat. The pink ball had gone soft. England bowls were tired. How they tired, I don't know. They did nothing in Perth, and they bowled one day against the top order. And they waited and they batted properly. Read the situation of the game, unlike Bazball. Waited, got 500, and then bowled under lights. And there you go, you're 6 down. Proper cricket.
I do think
Test match cricket hasn't changed in 150 years. Little things might have changed, but sometimes you need to bat properly. Australia batted properly, got ahead of the game, batted England out the game, and won easily. Thanks for coming.
I do think England have to look at the bowling. That's never you can't be conceding a lead like that from where they were. Even on that third morning, they're vaguely competent lower order batsmen, but England made them look very, it was very comfortable for them.
Well, everyone got double figures. That shows you something. And what are they going to do when Archer can't play? He can't play 5 test matches.
Okay, talk me through Archer bowling the quickest spell of the series when the game's already gone.
Yeah, I don't understand the reasoning behind it, apart from trying to knock one of their heads off and trying to injure the player, bowling at 150 clicks, 90 miles an hour plus. I don't understand the principle behind it at all. I would have actually just chucked the ball to Jacks and gone, you can win by 10 wickets or get off the park here, who cares? Like, the game's over. Chasing 60. I don't understand. Has that come from Jofra himself, or does it come from McCullum and Stokes and the data guys? I don't know. I did like some of the chat from Smith saying you can bowl at whatever this all day long, but yeah.
I just found it all a bit weird. If you're able to bowl that fast, and maybe a physical thing, but where's that on day, first innings?
When it means something, when the game's not over, exactly.
I just find it leaves more questions than answers. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room. For me, certainly, comments by McCullum about, I think we were too prepared for this test. Now, I've had a lot of sympathy for Bazball, or over prepared for this test. I've had a lot of sympathy for Bazball in recent years, as you well know. I've loved watching it, but these sorts of comments are. I sense that there's someone almost at the end of their reign, because it's such a ridiculous statement he's made, given what transpired.
It was an appalling statement. It really was. It was a. If his best mate Rob Key wasn't the managing director, there'd be a lot more questions asked. And then you hear what Stokes said: we need strong men in Australia. That's not coach and captain working together as a pair at all. It was pretty poor. Bazball is dead. It's finished. It's game over. It's top level sports about winning. It's not about entertainment all the time. It's about winning. If you want to go and do some winning, go and watch another sport or entertainment. It's unsustainable the way they play. They're always in fifth gear. They always just want to put the foot down, score 5 and over, try and get 100 off 60 balls, blah, blah, blah. It might win you the odd session, the odd test match. It ain't winning you a series. It's gone, it's finished. Start playing some proper cricket. It's not changed. Stokes and Jacks, to be fair to them, on Sunday morning, day 4, showed what you can do. Bat for 2.5 hours, bat properly. Don't need to be in fifth gear all the time. It's always easier to stay in the side than get out of the side. Look at Crawley and Pope. They invested in Bashir for 3 years as a 20-year-old kid who's played 10 first-class games. Come to Australia, nowhere to be seen. Go on Penn and Lions game, 0 for 130 off 12 overs, something. Play Jacks, who doesn't play white ball cricket. The lack of clear thinking, which is all we've been told about for the last 3 years under Bazball, is clear thinking. It's just completely the opposite. It's finished. Get him out. It's 5-0 Australia.
Okay, right. Let's say Bazball is done. Okay, let's say McCullum goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be an interesting conversation about Stokes. But the bigger question, or the biggest question for me would be, is obviously you want to see an England team who plays more wins, but plays more appropriately potentially to the situations they find themselves in. Where does this England test team go? Because I'm not seeing a ton of amazing talents coming through who are test match ready players, whether that be bowlers, whether it be batsmen. I mean, if you're going to get away from Bazball, obviously Crawley isn't going to be there. Obviously Pope, dubious, right?
Yeah.
Given your opinions on Brooke.
No, I don't mind these players. Well, certainly don't think Crawley and Pope should be anywhere near this Test 11. Shouldn't be anywhere near it for 15, 18 months. You can see
the problem is, right? So you bring a new coach in, and which of those bowlers aren't going to be there? Those bowlers are as much to blame as the batsmen in that test. The bowling was horrendous.
Yeah, bowling top 2, but the
captaincy that's not going to change. How's that going to? Obviously, the captaincy can change.
But at the end of the day, batsmen in Test cricket win you the games. They set the game up, they win you the games. This England team don't. It's too cosy. They picked Pope over Bessel because Bessel hasn't played any game of cricket. He didn't play all last summer because they go and play some white ball tippy tappy nonsense. Like if you don't want to play Pope because he got in the Test team against New Zealand, Bessel, then play him all summer and drop Pope. Be ruthless. They're not ruthless at all. They just carry on in fifth gear. Like sometimes you just need to play proper, as I discussed on Friday. Tom Haynes at Sussex, captain of the Lions, doesn't come out at a strike rate of 80 like Corey does, but actually can hold a bat, looks like he knows what to do, plays well in county championship. They don't look at county championship. Look at Bashir pick. They don't care what you do in county championship cricket. It's irrelevant to them, which is complete and utter nonsense, considering what Michael Ness has just done, bowling at 82, 83 miles an hour, line and length. It's a shambles.
But I guess my point as much is that you have to be a little bit careful what you wish for. And I don't see if England go back to trying to play, normal Test cricket I'd see a dearth of talent there relatively.
Not normal all the time. Australia didn't play normal all this Test match. They went at 5 and over for the first half their innings, 60, 70 overs. And then when the time was right, they went back to normal Test cricket, reading the situation. England at that point would have just gone on, we're going to score 500 in 80 overs. No, just sometimes read the room. They never read the room, barring Jackson Stokes when they're way behind the 8 ball on Sunday morning. No, get rid. See you later. This series is over and it's 5-0. Anyone who thinks it's not 5-0, good luck beating this Australian side with confidence, with Cummins coming back, who's an all-time great, and Nathan Lyon, who I don't rate that highly, but he's got 500 plus Test wickets. England have no idea how to play him in Australia with that overspin he gets at Adelaide and Melbourne and Sydney. How are England going to win a Test match in Australia now? How?
Well, I think the only way they win a Test match would be if one of the openers or Root or Brook go and score 150, 200 and give them a chance.
They need to score 600 in the first innings, and I can't see that happening.
But that would be the only way I'd potentially see them winning a game at the moment.
And also, they've won the first 2 tosses. Tosses in Test cricket make a huge difference. Won't be long before Cummins wins a Test match toss.
Certainly going to be worth keeping an eye on. Any other sport from last week?
Over the weekend?
Or should we look ahead to this week?
Let's quickly look ahead to the Champions League this weekend.
Just quickly, you have Wolves Man United tonight. I'm very intrigued to see how Man United get on. I think Wolves have been a little bit unfortunate, and I think that they could give Manchester United a lot of trouble tonight. Man United, I see a 1.69 this morning. It feels short for this Man United team. I don't think Wolves was quite as bad as people and their record would suggest. I think under lights at Molineux, Wolves do have a couple of injury problems, but it is what it is. And I want
to see the team news first. I want to see who plays up front for Man United.
Gomez is suspended for Wolves, but it's going to be interesting to watch for me.
As I said, I want to see who the front 3 are for Man United if I get involved in that. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Like, does Ahmad play right wing back? Does Junior play up front, or does Mount come back into the team and play as a false 9 before I look at the odds on that? United have been poor the last 3 weeks.
I think you'll see. I personally would go Cunha and Burmo, Mount, rather than Xerxes. But Xerxes has started the last couple. I'd be surprised if Mount doesn't play. But Cunha going back to Wolves tonight will be interesting to see. Midweek this week we've got Champions League. We have Tottenham have a bit of a gimme against Slavia Prague tomorrow night. We have Chelsea away at Atalanta, potentially quite tricky.
Caciedo can play also in that.
Obviously, Liverpool, your boys have got Inter Milan away.
Loss.
Interesting, Arsenal are away at Bruges on Wednesday night. Surely Arteta will make multiple changes. Has to start using that squad, surely. Newcastle away at Leverkusen. Again, not an easy game, that. They're the ones, again, I think that will take its toll on Newcastle in terms of the league. Trips away to Leverkusen, where you're having to play your best team.
No free game there for them.
And we have Real Madrid, Manchester City. It feels like a good time for Manchester City to be playing Real Madrid.
Yeah, Real Madrid, as touched on earlier, Xavi Alonso's under huge pressure there, not only from the fans, but it looks like the players as well. They aren't totally convinced by him. So I don't know. You can't read that game at times. They're probably pretty even in the betting there. Probably Madrid are slight favourites, I'd imagine, only because it's at home. But if Mbappe doesn't score, Madrid are looking pretty light. They don't really score many. Obviously, he scored 4 in the previous round. Yeah, you could easily, if Man City win that comfortably, which could happen, they could blow them away. You know, if Haaland has a game and dominates their Huijsen and dominates Rudiger, and they take their chances, it could get very messy, very ugly. And you could see the toys come out of the pram from the players during the game there. Does he go back to 3-5-2? His tried and tested Alonso, so he stick with 4 at the back. One to look out for.
Huijsen's interesting just because, as good as he was at Bournemouth, obviously got his big deal, he still, I always felt he was quite a long way away from being a finished product in terms of
it's a kid
playing at that top level like Real Madrid. But obviously, a bit of Europa League action on Thursday night. Forest away at Utrecht, Villa away at Bâle. I think we'll see the strength of the Premier League, no doubt. And then Palace are away at the mighty Shelbourne on Thursday night as well. I mean, that Conference League really is a complete joke. The teams in it.
Just money making for the UEFA, that's all it is.
So a couple of things. So the other thing that's happening this week is the World Championship Darts starts on Thursday. Always great sport to watch. Littler starts on Thursday. The other one who is playing is Michael
Smith is playing Lisa Ashton on Thursday night. Just having a look now.
Yeah. So a couple of interesting games. Obviously, you'd expect Littler to win through comfortably. And then, plenty of stuff to watch over Christmas with the darts. Anything else, James?
No, I was just having a look there at the winner market. So I see the top. Well, Littler's now odds on, I see, to win 10 to 11, I see.
Well, I think that's probably about right. I mean, his record in the longer format games, which obviously the World Championship ends up going into, is ridiculous. He's literally lost. The only game he's lost in the longer format was to Humphreys 2 World Championship finals ago when he was making his debut. Pretty much in terms of the longer games. So, I mean, his record is insane. So, something to watch out for.
Special talent.
Genuinely special talent, given his age as well. You talk about mental strength earlier. That boy has it. He has something just very special.
Just a genius.
Okay, I think that wraps it up for today, James. We'll catch up again on Friday.
Yeah, have a good week, everyone. Speak to you on Friday. All right.